from a guy, Jack Morgan, on YouTube. Over here, this guy. He's kind of talks about his life a little bit, and I really like his channel. It's really cool. He talks about current events, and he talks about, like I said, his life and all things that are going on. And I thought it might be cool to hear the perspective of a woodworker, kind of like the journey that it took to get to where I'm at today, which is owning a business with about 10 employees. You know, we do a small 7 figures, and our business is called the Resplendent Crow, and it's a cool business. We do a lot of high gloss lacquered furniture. We make a ton of furniture. We make it all right here in St. Louis, Missouri. And I think the journey is kind of interesting, you know. So hopefully you guys like this kind of content, but I'm going to go through kind of where I started, which is in Oregon, believe it or not, in Oregon, and journeying across America, across the world, and everything I had to do to kind of get to where I'm at today, which is owning a business. And I think a lot of people would like to do this. I'm a big fan of people starting businesses, passing it down to their kids, or teaching their kids things, and doing stuff that really matters, you know. And you don't have to work for somebody else your entire life. And some people like to, I mean, don't get me wrong, but anyway, I thought this would be kind of interesting, you know. So I thought I'd grab myself a cup of coffee here, and I pulled up some tabs. I'm going to kind of go through this stuff and show you guys what it took me personally to go from being a kind of an F up, to be honest with you. I never graduated high school. I didn't do any of the normal things to where, like I said, where I got to today, which is living in a beautiful home on the hills of the Mississippi River, owning a business. And it's a struggle. It's not always easy, but it's a real conversation about the journey of a woodworker, you know. So we'll kind of start. I've got myself a little bit of notes here, a cup of coffee, and we'll kind of get after this, you know. So let me pull up my stuff here. Bear with me, this is not my day job doing these videos, but I'm trying to do some videos on woodworking, on what it takes to be a woodworking business owner, these kind of things. And I do the content later, right? I think a lot of people on YouTube think that you're going to get rich in the content game, and I'm here to tell you that you're not. If you're the 1% of the 1%, you probably will, but you can get rich, you can get, you know, you can do really well in the furniture space if you kind of, you know what to do. So let's get started. So everything kind of starts for me in Oregon, right? Corvallis, Oregon, which is about 2 hours south of Portland. And if you guys see, I got a whole bunch of tabs open. So again, bear with me, guys. So we'll start here. So Oregon, of course, is right over here, way on the coast. I grew up in this little town called Corvallis, Oregon, which is a really cool place to live. I mean, it was a beautiful town, and just like kind of idyllic, to be quite honest with you. And actually, woodworking and the forestry industry is in Oregon. The Pacific Northwest is kind of the hub for a lot of the forestry products that we use today in the furniture space: hardwoods, plywoods, softwoods, all these kind of things. You know, so I got a pretty good education. And truth be told, my stepdad growing up, he used to work on bridges. He used to build bridges and do work like that, but he ended up hurting himself, so he had to go to school and learn something new. And he went and got a drafting degree, of all things, like drafting, right? He got a drafting degree and then started his own woodworking business in here at Corvallis, Oregon. And fast forward a couple of years, and then here I come, you know, again, stepdad. And he's got a woodworking business, you know. So growing up, I grew up around woodworking a little bit, but I wasn't really involved, you know. So grew up around woodworking, and did a lot of sanding, a lot of staining and stuff like that. Growing up, like, we always used Watco stain. Watco stain was like a big thing. You know, like, I feel like my hands are still stained, you know, brown from all the Watco stain that I did as a kid. You know, but that's how it was growing up in a family. Like, you had to do the work. Like, this is how the family supported itself. And it was, we grew up in a double wide trailer on about 7 acres of property. And it was it was an okay life. It was, stepdad wasn't the greatest man I've ever met, but he did the best he could, you know, with the knowledge that he had. So anyway, fast forward, you know, to when I'm about 13, and my mom decided to leave my stepdad. He became kind of verbally abusive and was just not a good person to be around. And lost a couple of years there. Well, fast forward then another probably 4 years till, no, I take it back, probably another 7 years, right? Till I'm about 21. Well, my stepdad got in deep trouble, and he needed some help, and so I went and I helped him, right? And this is kind of where the journey begins, at about 21, where my stepdad needs help. You know, he kind of messed up in his life a little bit. I won't go into detail on that. But point is that that's where I started woodworking, right? That's where I started kind of getting my hands really into making things. And so we started making a lot of office furniture for the municipalities, right? Your fire departments, your school districts, police departments, city council, stuff like that in in Corvallis, Oregon, and kind of the surrounding area. We did a couple of libraries for some schools. I mean, we did a lot of really cool work, and that's what really started to learn how to make things. And everything was oak. Like all we worked with was oak because that's just kind of the wood of the day. So that happens. Well, 9/11 happens, and then once 9/11 happens, all the work stopped. Okay, and this is where the journey for me like really takes hold. You know, I got a lot of good times with my stepdad, a lot of bad times when I was younger, a lot of good times when I got older because he couldn't mess with me. Right? It was I could push back a lot more. I had an opinion of my own, and anyway. 9/11 happens, so I have to move, right? The business shuts down. All the municipalities stop spending money. The money just dries up, right? We all had to go get new work, essentially. So I applied to an ad in Yahoo, of all places, for a job working for a company called Baumhoff. All right, so that's where kind of the journey goes. So here I am in Corvallis, Oregon, right? So I had this shitty little Mazda Miata and like... I had a guitar, and I think I had a computer that I built, right? So these are my only worldly possessions. And so fast forward, I move over to Kansas, of all places, right? So I took this job in Kansas, right? So we're going from beautiful, idyllic Oregon growing up to all the way over here in Kansas, right? We come into Wichita, and unbeknownst to me, Wichita is the air capital of the world, right? So I go from building wood furniture like desks and like I said, credenzas and whatever, lots of bookcases. Holy hell, lots of bookcases to Wichita, Kansas. Right, going here to Wichita, Kansas, and aerospace capital of the world. So you got companies like Cessna, Boeing was there at the time. You got Bombardier was a big employer, and then you had a lot of like Spirit Aerosystems and a lot of ancillary supportive businesses that supported these OEM private jet manufacturers. So I would work for this company called Baumhoff, right? And Baumhoff has us working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. I mean, it's just like gangbusters. Building cabinetry for private jets. Okay, so cabinetry for private jets is kind of interesting. So we'll go to let's see, kind of all my little, got so many of these freaking things. So we'll go to Gulfstream. Okay, so what you got going on here is we're going into where I was making a lot of furniture for, like I said, for municipalities and things like that, to where we're starting to build interior cabinets for private jets. Really cool stuff. So take a look in here. You got things like these fold-up tables, right? These are side ledge tables. These tables fold into the side ledge, which is the side of this cabinet here. We go into making different kinds of credenza cabinets, galley cabinets, stuff like that. So here, let me flip to another picture. And again, guys, bear with me. Like I said, this is not my day job, but I'm going to show you guys all kinds of interesting stuff. So click on this picture here and view image. So these are galley cabinets, right? And these are the bulkheads that are on the side of the galley cabinet, right? This separates the galley from the main compartment in the private jet, right? So a lot of really fine veneer work, which would really help me later on. As an early furniture maker, I didn't do any veneer work, right? We just made everything from plywood and hardwood, basically. A lot of plywood, end panels and base panels, and then you'd have like a hardwood face frame. Very stock kind of furniture making stuff. So we went to, or I started learning how to make these kind of cabinets, right? And I learned a little bit about, aluminum plating and a little bit about, like I said, veneer work, stuff like that. This veneer actually looks kind of like it's stained eucalyptus wood, which was real common at the time, So fast forward to that, and I'm out there in Kansas making jet furniture, right? And I get there, I'm working there for 3 months, and the company gets bought out by another company called Nordheim, which is a multinational conglomerate aerospace manufacturer. They do a lot of parts for different kinds of jets, and so that it inevitably would take me to Tulsa, right not right now, but eventually would take me to Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is again flyover country, as we say. So they get bought out. So I just moved to Kansas, right? I got my shitty little car and my guitar and my computer, and my mother had moved to Wichita years earlier, right? So I'm hanging out with her, and I literally just showed up like, hey mom, I'm here, and she's like, oh my God. And I get laid off like immediately, so it's like, well, what the hell do I do now? Well, again, I didn't know that this was the air capital of the world, Wichita, Kansas, of all things, the most aerospace companies anywhere in America. So I applied to another job, and this company was called Global Engineering and Technology. And they needed someone that knew how to do laminate work, you know, and I had done tons of laminate work when I'd worked for Kelly in Oregon, right? My stepdad. And so I just done miles and miles of laminate work. So I applied to this job and they're like, yeah, great, we'll hire you. They hired me right away, $10 an hour. I had to buy my own tools, you know, so I had to borrow money from my parents to buy, and it wasn't like a ton of tools, but it was probably whatever, 100, $200 worth of tools. And I buy all these tools and I end up going to work for this company, okay? Now, one of the things you guys have to understand about furniture making is that there's just all different kinds of ways to make furniture. There's all different kinds of materials. There's all different kinds of techniques. It's not all hardwood and plywood, you know, using a planer or using a sander and a router. There's a lot of different things. So what I want to show you guys here is what you have here. These are called honeycomb sandwich panels, right? And this is what aviation furniture is made out of, right? So what you got to think of is we'll pull this up here real quick. So what you have here is you have an aluminum skin, right? And then you have essentially a honeycomb center panel, right? Think of that as your veneers on your plywood, right? And these panels weigh like 5 pounds. They're super light. These aluminum ones are going to be a little bit heavier, but structurally they're very strong. They also have panels that are actually made of what's called Nomex, right? Nomex is essentially like, think about like a really thin cardboard, and this cardboard has a fiberglass skin on it. And this picture here isn't showing you that fiberglass skin, but what we would do is kind of what you're seeing here, right? So if we open up this image here if it will open up. Oh, well, okay, that one didn't work out, so well did it. Anyway, what you have here is you have a veneer, right? And then you would have your fiberglass skin, your honeycomb panel, right? And so you would veneer it just like wood. But the weight on these panels would be anywhere from 5 to 7 pounds, whereas a piece of plywood can be 50 to 60 pounds. And hell, if you use MDF, I mean, MDF is so gosh darn heavy, and that's what so many people use today. So anyway, this is what we were making things out. So I learned a lot about different kinds of materials and different kinds of techniques for making things, and this really helped me later on in my woodworking career. I mean, it changed everything for me. It really helped us to stand out as a business. Okay, so the way that you attach honeycomb sandwich panels is not completely indifferent to like how you attach a plywood panel, right? You take a piece of plywood, you know, if you're just going to butt it up, you might pop a nail in there, you know, or you could put a spline. You could use a domino tenon, these kind of things. Well, with sandwich panels, you actually had to put basically a pin in there, right? You drive this pin into that panel, and then you fill it with epoxy, right? So it becomes like a structural. You know, almost think about like a structural stud that goes into these panels. And you just, every 6 inches, you would put these things, and you would make the structure out of these pins that would make a cabinet, right? And so it's a very different way to make things, you know. And then if you want to have fasteners in a sandwich panel, you basically have to put an insert in there. And I think people are pretty familiar with inserts, but these inserts would be lined with epoxy, and you put that insert in there and you shoot epoxy in behind it, and that's how you have a structural point to where you could run a screw in a sandwich panel, you know. So anyway, I learned how to make furniture for private jets that excuse me, let me go back here a picture so you can view this image here. Learn how to make furniture with private jets without using nails, without using screws, without using traditional fasteners, and it just kind of opened up my mind to different ways of thinking about how to make things. And this is gonna, like I said, this is really gonna help me later on in life. Okay, so here in Wichita, Kansas, I spent like 10 or 11 years doing this work, and I kind of become the guy that can make anything, right? I start off doing production type furniture. We're making the same thing, you know. You might make the same piece of furniture 3 or 4 times, and move on to something else like that 3 or 4 times, to where I was just making all the R&D stuff. Okay. So what that led into was being able to do work that nobody else was going to be doing, right? They'd lead me on to the first kind of stuff. So one of the things that it did is it put me into what was called the E4B program, right? These are the doomsday planes, right? So this was really pivotal for me personally, because it opened up my the kind of work that I could do, right? So in order to work on something like an E4B plane, you have to pass a federal background check, right? This isn't like your normal background check. This is the highest level clearance. Probably that there is. I don't know. These are very protected planes. There's like 4 of them, and they just fly around all the time. And they're basically the planes that have all the nuke codes, and they have something in them called what's called a slickest system, which is basically your senior leader command system, right? So it's super important that you pass all the background checks. And since I wasn't into drugs, I wasn't into drinking, I didn't have any kind of a terrible background. You know, I have decent credit. It was no problem getting on this stuff. So this kind of opened me up to be able to work on just all kinds of really cool stuff. So I got to work for the Boeing Defense Center, which was really cool. I was really proud to be able to do all that kind of work. So I spent years working on all these planes, because what they would do is they'd bring in one to this, you know, basically fortified defense center. I'd work on this plane, do the work that had to be done. They'd take it out. They'd bring in the next one, right? And this happened over the course of years. And so in order to do this work, I had to learn under someone, right? And one of the things I had to do was I had to learn under this guy named, I'll just call him Bob. And he is just this crotchety old bastard who many people didn't like, but my company kept him around because he was so knowledgeable. He had tons of sheet metal experience, tons of aerospace experience, furniture making experience. He's this old kind of wizard that was not just a furniture maker, but an aerospace furniture maker. And so he taught me all about working with sheet metal. He taught me all about, you know, bend radiuses and different kinds of measuring techniques that are super close tolerance, and just taught me a whole bunch of stuff about working with metal. And so that metal work was the thing that led me into be able to make all kinds of really cool furniture for my company, the Resplendent Crow. And again, guys, I know I'm talking a bunch here, but I'm going to have a bunch of tabs open as I try and kind of go through how I ended up here in St. Louis, Missouri as a business owner. And it's really important to tell this story because I don't think a lot of furniture makers tell their story very in depth. You know, so I'm going to try and do that in this talk. So one of the things that that I do with my metal work, I'll show you guys this clip. Oops, maybe I get this tab to open up here. Just do a generic search for desk. So one of the things that I make is I make this executive desk, and I probably sell one of these a year, and it's almost always to like celebrities. But you see all this metalwork here. This is all solid brass, right? I do 2 versions of this desk, right? This is all solid brass. And I also do the same metal that you're seeing on here. Not this. This one's solid brass. Let's see if I can show the other one. There should be another version on here. Well, of course, she's got all the brass pictures here. Okay, well, actually, I take back to the very first picture. So this particular version here, this is all plated metal. Okay, so when we go back to our Gulfstream picks. Sorry, I got so many tabs open. When we go back to our Gulfstream picks, right? Let's pick. Let me find so I can find a little close-up picture here. The thing about I think you guys have to understand about aerospace plating is that it's not your traditional plating. So a lot of people think you take like, let's try this image here. You'll take whatever steel or maybe tin, and you plate that metal. You take it to a plater. They'll do a chemical coating, and then you'll end up with a piece of plated metal. You can do it all different things. Chrome, brass looking. You can just rose gold. There's just all kinds of plated metal you get. Well, all this plating right here, all this plating is aluminum, right? And the process for plating aluminum is different than the process for plating steel. It's actually very difficult, and it's very dirty. So there's only so many companies in America that do this particular kind of plating. So what I did is I took my aerospace knowledge and I applied that to this really high-end brass desk that I make, and people liked it, right? So it gave me a sales tool where I could say, well, guess what? You can have a desk. The desk is going to have the same plating that's on your private jet, right? And this is kind of a cool little selling gimmick, whatever you want to call it. But it turned into where I could sell a really crazy expensive desk that had a lot of really cool features to it that weren't available in any other type of product, right? So all this metal you're seeing on here, this is all plated aluminum, right? Because aluminum is light, right? Steel and tin are going to weigh a lot as compared to aluminum, which is very strong but also extremely light. So when you see all of these control mechanisms on the chairs here, these are all plated aluminum, right? All your inlay work, it's all plated aluminum. Your cup holders, these are all made out of a single piece of billet, right? CNC goes in, a mill, and goes in and just zips down a single piece of aluminum, and they get them plated, right? It's very expensive. but it keeps the weight down on the airplane. And these airplanes are 50 to $100 million a pop, so they don't, money's not an issue, So anyway, so that's one of the things I was able to do by learning those skills at this place called Global Engineering Technology. And this was a mom and pop company, guys. Like, this wasn't like some conglomerate. This was just one of these, like I said, ancillary companies in Wichita, Kansas, that was supporting Hawker Beechcraft, Cessna, Bombardier, all these places that we had contracts with. And so I learned all about this plating, all about metalwork, and it took me a long way. These skills were very valuable later on in life, right? So the other thing that I learned at Global Engineering Technology that changed my life from a furniture maker standpoint, from an income standpoint, from a skills set that was valuable to other employers was learning engineering, right? And this was learning CAD. Today, we have a lot of CAD programs out there that are real popular with furniture makers. I think SketchUp's real popular. AutoCAD might be, but SketchUp seems to be the one that everyone uses. And, no shade on SketchUp, but that's just kind of a generic program. There's other programs out there that are much more powerful, that can do all kinds of things, that, explosive use, stress analysis, just things that you're not going to find in normal furniture making, right? So I learned on that because we had to have it for aerospace. You got to be able to do these kind of tests, and you can do renderings and just all kinds of cool stuff. So I'm going to go through this program that I use, which is called SolidWorks. And this is what I learned in aerospace at Global Engineering Technology, like I said, 15, 20 years ago, a long time ago. And I've used this program till today. It's the only program that I use, and I want to say it's about $5,000, and it's going to run you about $1,200 a year, I think, to use it with all the updates every year. You don't have to pay for the updates, but it is pricey up front, and it's an amazing program. So what I'm able to do is I'm able to sell my customers very easily with these models and these renderings and things that I can do here in SolidWorks. And it's a really cool program that just allows you to, like I said, at this point, this is nothing new, but back in the day, this was everything. This was really cool, cutting edge stuff. This technology isn't crazy now. So one of my projects that I'm working on right now is this is a 22-foot table, and I have a client that needs one of these made out of crotch mahogany or walnut burl. They haven't really decided what they want, and I'll talk about this in my video. I'll talk about some of these projects that I'm working on, and I'll try and talk numbers with you guys a little bit, and just, like I said, be really open and transparent, because that's what this Jack Morgan guy was doing. He was really laying out the financial side of things, of his life, of literally being shut down off YouTube, of his family upbringing and all the chaos with his mom and dad, and just really wild story, and while mine isn't that bad, it was kind of rough, but I hope that when we do this video that you guys will understand that, like, just because you have a shitty upbringing or you have really awful points in your life, it doesn't mean that you can't move forward, right? It doesn't mean that you can't weather the storm and move on to better things, because that's what happens, right? At the end of the day, it's not about, how great you are at anything, or your massive skill set, or you're super impressive at this one thing. It's about being consistent, right? It's about showing up every day. And it's about just, as Joe Dirt says, keep it on, keep it on. It's, if you can keep moving forward, stacking W's, whether little W's, big W's, you keep doing this stuff, eventually it'll lead to something, and I firmly believe that. So anyway, this program, SolidWorks, it's super freaking intuitive and easy to use, but it does a lot of cool things. So anyway, so this 22-foot table, so I've started off this design, and again, what you guys will notice is that if I zoom in on this thing, right? So we got all this yellow indicates brass, right? So this is brass details. They're going to go on this desk, right? And again, this is from my aerospace days, right? I learned about this metalwork. I learned about how to get this stuff plated, how to do something that's really cool and unique in the furniture space, right? So we've got, again, this is more of a modern deal. So this would be solid brass wrapping a pedestal, right? We'd have brass lined on the inside here, and we would have brass, basically big brass plinth or foot or whatever you want to call it, and what I've done is I make these massive 10-foot credenzas, right? These are 10-foot. I think I sell these for like 10 or 12,000 bucks a piece, and we sell those as well, but you can see the scale, right? The scale is really important to be able to show the customer. But anyway, when I do this kind of stuff, I'm able to make videos, right? So I click over here and collect a video, make a video, and I'm able to send that video to my clients via email or more importantly via text. And we'll get into talk about sales and selling clients and stuff like that. But we're able to do all this kind of stuff, and this really helps me to be able to sell really expensive things to people. And I learned all this when I was in my 20s in aerospace, right? This little company called Global Engineering and Technology. I was able to learn this stuff. And this skill has been as valuable as furniture making, right? Knowing how to make things is super important. But the skill of CAD has been just as valuable, okay? If at the end of the day I could never build furniture again, I could always do CAD at home, and I could sell my clients on all kinds of fun stuff. I could find people to make my furniture, and this skill right here is probably more valuable than the furniture making itself. So I hope that kind of illustrates to people that when you're going through life, you're going to learn all kinds of skills, and you may not know that that one skill you're learning at the time is going to be the thing that carries you forward in life. So I always tell people, like, be interested, be curious. When you're at work and your boss needs someone to do something that seems kind of ridiculous or not cool or whatever, like, volunteer for it. Like, volunteer for everything, because you're going to learn all kinds of things. And I think it's just super valuable that you always volunteer. And that mindset has led me to all kinds of cool places. Like, I've got to do all kinds of cool stuff. I'll talk a little bit about that later on, because right now we're basically talking about being in my 20s in Wichita, Kansas, learning skills that later on would take me to where I am today. Okay. So other things that, we've got, let's see if I got some other windows open here. Yeah. So, one of the other things that I do is I make a lot of hardware. Okay. And this is another way to make money. But you can see that I use the same program. I'm using SolidWorks to make this hardware that I then have manufactured in India, right? So again, super important skill to be able to take this model, right, and put it onto a drawing, put it onto a PDF format, be able to do what are called DXF files and different kinds of files, so that these people can take that stuff in India, put it onto a casting, right? Be able to cast this, or maybe they're going to laser cut it. Give them all the information that they need to then create this thing for me. These are all skills that I learned in my 20s working for this little crappy company that, in fact, actually just got bought out by another company, I think called Yingling, there in Wichita, Kansas. So anyway, point is that we can, let's try and open up another file. So we're at, let's see here. We'll go to, bear with me here. I've just got literally hundreds and hundreds of models. Like, I've done models for, 10, 15 years at this point. And we can pull up quickly. Let's see, let's not really pull up that one. Hold on one second, guys. Go to, we need to create drawings, right? So creating drawings is kind of an important thing. And let's see what kind of drawings I've got here. We'll go to, let's try pull. So let me pull up. Here we go. I'm getting old here. I need larger images. Okay, so what I'm able to do is I'm able to take my different models. I'm able to create drawings from them. Okay, and then I can then take these drawings and I can give them to people. So this particular drawing is of just a Greek key pull, right? I sell these Greek key pulls all the time. Hardware is a fantastic business to get into, but I'm able to take this model, give all this important information to the people that are going to manufacture all this stuff, and then they make it for me. So it's really important that you're able to give people information quickly that is super accurate, because there's a lot of when you've been in business for a long time, or hell, you've done anything for a long time, there's a lot of misinterpretation, right? People can interpret how you say things one way, but if you have a drawing or some kind of engineering, everyone understands the language of numbers, and it helps to mitigate miscommunication, so things like that. So anyway, this is something that like I said, that I've used for a long time, and it's really helped me to grow my business, right? So I'm able to sell and design products that are very unique. This particular sideboard, I've sold this in all different kinds of sizes. The last one I sold, I think I sold for like $8,500. I also make an 8-foot version of this that sells for, I want to say, like 10 grand. And again, we can paint these and we can make these in stain grade. It just kind of depends on what the customer needs. So if I go back over here, I don't know if I can find this particular, I think this is called maybe Evans. Is it Evans? Yeah, here we go. So Evans in estate. This is part of our estate collection. Again, you can see this thing, crotch mahogany. What's this thing sell for? $12,000. So again, we make these all right here in St. Louis, and you can see how, again, the skill that I learned in my 20s of learning how to use AutoCAD, CATIA, SolidWorks, all these different programs, coupled with the furniture making experience I learned when I was in my teens, to working with this old wizard of a furniture maker in the aerospace industry. These skills have led me to make the kind of furniture we make now at Thirst and Crow. Very high end, unique kind of furniture. So that's where we're kind of at. So that's Wichita, Kansas, and then of course going south to Oklahoma, right? And Oklahoma would take me to where the hell is Tulsa? So Tulsa, I think, is over here. There we go. So Tulsa's right here, and you can see Wichita, right? So I want to say it was like 4 hours south. But anyway, so the company, Global Engineering Technology that I was working for, I went and I took a job with a company called Nordam, which was a company that bought out the very first company that laid me off when I first moved to Kansas, right? So they ended up closing that facility in Wichita, Kansas, and then took all operations to Tulsa. So Tulsa was, I spent like maybe 3 or 4 years in Tulsa, and the things that I learned when I was in Tulsa were basically 12-hour days. Like I worked so much and I made so much money, but it cost me a marriage, right? So I ended up having to get divorced. The freedom of living in Tulsa really changed my life, if I'm being completely honest with you. It really changed my life. I became kind of a workaholic and just I don't know, almost like an adrenaline junkie in a way. I was just living off of work. But anyway, so I'm in Tulsa and I work for this company, Nordam, and the opportunity that really changed my life, I think, came about. And that was an opportunity to go to New Zealand. And I spent a bunch of time in New Zealand working on a private 737, right? And so these are called BBJs, Boeing Business Jets. And these are essentially like, think of them like private aircraft, but they're the private aircraft that you and I would fly when we're flying around America, commercial. So these are very large airplanes. So this job was pretty cool. So this led me to do all kinds of really cool projects. It took me to let's see. Let me see if I got another one of these. Yeah, here we go. So it took me from Wichita or Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is kind of right over here, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Yeah, right in. This is Tulsa right here. And then it took me on a flight all the way over here to New Zealand. Freaking wait, that's Madagascar. Whoops. We need to go to, we got to get over here to Australia. There we go. I figured I'd use this thing. So here's Christchurch, right? So it took me to the South Island of New Zealand, which is the cooler island. You also have Auckland, which is kind of the other kind of big place, right? And Auckland is, was that North? Yeah. North Island, northern part of the North Island. So anyway, it took me down here to Christchurch. I spent a bunch of time here learning big private jets, being away from America, learning different cultures and different ways to do things. And the cool thing about New Zealand is they're very autonomous. Autonomous is the word I'm looking for. They're very they don't use the rest of the world. They're really good at coming up with ways to do stuff, because truth is, to get anything to New Zealand, it's not as easy as getting things into America, right? Like, we think we're just going to Amazon shit, and it doesn't work that way. So they're very good at making things, using what they have, jerry-rigging kind of stuff. It's kind of an interesting culture, so we spent a lot of time there learning how to do that kind of stuff and really being independent and creative with making things. So I really loved being in New Zealand, learning that culture. It was a freaking amazing time. Well, so doing that, and I believe the plane was for the CEO of Samsung at the time. I think that's the plane. I don't hold me to that one. So fast forward a little bit further, and we're going to get to where I'm doing planes for like Virgin Air. So the 787 had just come out, Boeing's new 787 Dreamliner. And so I was doing a lot of work for, let's see here. I don't know if I have any of those pictures with me right at the moment. Let's see if I come down here. Hold on. Bear with me, guys. Let's go to images. Let's go to pictures. We'll go to yeah, here we go. So this is a 787, and it's pretty cool. It's this is a Dreamliner. So this is actually a bar. So this is an airplane. It's got a cool bar in it. All this accent lighting. I know these pictures are kind of dark. They're probably not the best pictures, but this is Richard Branson. So he's the guy that obviously owns Virgin Air. But we made all these cool bar cabinets. Like I said, with all these. This is actually a really cool cabinet here. This is essentially like this is magazine storage, but you can see they had all this accent lighting. So what we had here is this is like, you need to think about this as being, it's like Corian. And what they did is they would CNC cut these shapes on the back side of that Corian, and then they put light behind it. And that light would project through the Corian, and it would create this lighted effect. It's kind of cool. It's, this was these French people that designed this. And they were annoying people, by the way. Not that French people are annoying, but these people were, Jesus Christ. They were wild. So anyway, you can see we have the cool bar seats, and again, more of the projected light, and just really cool cabinet. You can see some of the closets back in here. So really enjoyed doing that project. That was a lot of fun, and it led to after that, it led to where I got the opportunity to finally work for the company that I wanted to work for all my life, which was Gulfstream Aerospace. And Gulfstream is considered the creme de la creme of private jet industries. Okay, so let's hold on one second. Let's find Gulfstream here. So yeah, this is a company that I was just super proud to get to work for. They moved me from from Tulsa, Oklahoma to Savannah, Georgia, right? So I came over here. Now we're on the coast. We're living right in beautiful Savannah, which, like, what a frickin', I'll tell you guys something. If you ever want to go to a beautiful town, like, Savannah is just the most amazing place. Like, historic, modern, a lot of really cool companies. You got the ocean right here. It's literally from Savannah. It's like a 25-minute drive out here to Tybee Island, and you're hanging out in beautiful ocean, gorgeous town, like the picturesque beach town, basically is how I put it. Fort Pulaski is pretty cool. You can go tour this old fort. It's kind of cool. A lot of Civil War history there, So anyway, really cool place. So there in Savannah, Georgia, learning to, using my knowledge of CATIA specifically, which is another CAD program, an aerospace and nautical program, using that knowledge to learn more about, to make furniture for Gulfstream cabinets, right? And the place that I worked wasn't a normal production space. It was what's called the service center, right? So it's where we do all the refurbs. We do all of the new planes, right? We did a lot of Gulfstream G650ER was kind of the new plane at the time. So we were making a lot of really cool furniture for those, a lot of cool cabinets, and it was a lot of fun, man. I really did have a blast doing this kind of stuff, So we'd make a lot of these. This particular one is a curtain, right? This is a curtain that you do by hand. They also have an automated one, right? Which everything's touch, right? It'd be touch latches. A lot of really cool credenza cabinets. Again, a lot of side ledge cabinets, a lot of plating work, and just really cool stuff, guys. Like, it's going in these planes, taking out the furniture, putting in the furniture, learning how these jets are disassembled and then reassembled. That knowledge really helped me to come up with new and creative ways to make furniture, right? To do things in the furniture space that I wasn't able to do, or traditionally you wouldn't be able to do, right? Or you wouldn't think about it just because you hadn't had that experience. So working there led me to start my next round in the actual furniture space, right? So I've done aerospace for a long time, and while I'm doing aerospace, I'm trying to put together a woodworking business because I've always wanted to be in business because my stepdad was entrepreneurial, right? He had a business called K&D Enterprises, and did a lot of office furniture. I talked about that earlier in this video. Did a lot of office furniture, and so there was always that kind of desire to have my own business. A lot of that spirit was still there. And I just always failed at having a company. I tried when I lived in Wichita to start a business, didn't work. Fast forward to, I never tried in Tulsa because I was living in an apartment. I wasn't able to do it. But when I went to Savannah, working in Gulfstream, there were a lot of people that did furniture work and did side work and stuff like that. As furniture makers, people are always asking us to make these. Cabinet makers, can you fix this drawer? Can you make me a vanity? Can you help me in my kitchen? They're just always asking for stuff, which is cool. I don't mind, but it's one of those deals. Like if you have a truck, people always want to borrow your truck, or they're want you to help them move. It's one of these one of these things. Like they just see you coming a mile away, like, oh, there's a furniture maker. So anyway. So I'm working in Savannah at Gulfstream, my dream job, and it's freaking awesome. Like working for Gulfstream at Savannah is literally like having credit in your pocket, like because they're such a large employer. Everyone there makes a lot of money because the products that we build cost a ton of money. So it was really cool. But anyway, fast forward to I want to start a business again, and there's a guy there at Gulfstream who was doing side work, and he just kind of didn't want to do the side work anymore. So he told his clients, like, "Hey, Eric's a furniture maker. Why don't you see if he'll do something for you?" So the I get asked to make it was like basically like a cornice for a home, for a really nice home. And I didn't have a shop. I didn't have anything. I just had this little shitty house that I was renting, and I had a little like 8 foot wide by maybe 15 foot wide like outbuilding. And I get asked to make this course, and I don't have the space, but I'm like, you know what? I think I can do this. And so I went and I bought a crappy little miter saw. I bought a crappy little painter. It was like a Graco spray painter, and a router, and I think I bought a compressor. And I charged her like, I want to say it was like $800 or $900 to make these two cornices, and made these things, painted them, matched the paint, and the customer loved it, and it worked out great. So that led into where I was doing other projects for this particular designer, and I started working. Like I was showing you guys this. Let's see. Let's come back over here. I showed you guys Savannah, right? And now we're out here on Tybee where all the rich houses are, right? So now I'm working on houses out here making stuff. And truth be told, the situation with that client did not go well. Like it started where I was making beautiful furniture. I mean, we're talking like furniture that looks like it belongs in Lord of the Rings. Really high-end, wild stuff. But that led into doing work for other general contractors and other millwork companies. And this business started to kind of grow, but what I realized is that I lacked a lot of skills. And even though I would ask my mom, who was a marketing and sales genius, I'd ask her, like, how do I grow my business? What am I missing here? I can't seem to find more customers. I'd have a real problem with finding clients. And I would have clients that would give me work, but they wouldn't give me enough work to where I could get away from my W-2 job, right? And this is where things really start to change. And, I've got a good job. I'm making my base is like $80K a year. I mean, it's really good money. We're getting bonuses. I could buy most of what I want for the most part. Life is pretty good. I'm definitely not complaining. But I had this idea that I wanted to get closer to see my son, right? Which I had a kid. I haven't talked about this very much. But my son lived all the way back here in Wichita, Kansas, right? So I zoom back out here. We've got Wichita way freaking over here, so I want to be able to see my son a little bit more, so I'm asking my boss there at Gulfstream, like, hey, I'm kind of thinking, I kind of want to go back and do this thing, and they're saying, well, hey, you know what, we just bought a company called Jet Professionals in St. Louis, they're like, why don't you go to St. Louis and you can help us get this thing going. And so I'm like, well, that's, serendipity. That's like an amazing opportunity. So a couple months later, they shipped me up here to Missouri, right? We're here in Missouri now. And we're going to this place called St. Louis, which I'd never been to before. and so Gulfstream bought this place called Jet Professionals, right? So St. Louis is right here. This is St. Louis proper. Well, over here, this is kind of the rough part, East St. Louis. If you do any research on St. Louis, this is the pretty shitty part, to be quite honest with you. Well, Gulfstream bought a little place right over here, and so you had to cross the Mississippi River to get over here to this place, and so that's where we're working. So I started working there, and I fast realized that the management system here is effed. Like they are a strictly by the numbers, super rigid kind of a management structure. And we didn't operate that way in Savannah. I don't operate that way. We're pretty lax on how we do things, but these guys were just sticklers for every single rule. And I fast found out like I can't operate that way. So I had to part ways with Gulfstream. Like I said, this was my dream company to work for. I really wanted to. So I even considered moving back to Savannah and just taking my old job back at the service center because I just loved working for this company so much. But this management was just awful, absolutely awful. So it didn't work. So I ended up taking a job. There was a company called Westar Aviation, and this Westar Aviation company was located up here, right? Alton, East Alton, right? So you got the St. Louis Regional Airport right here. This is where this company was. And so what they would do is they would do a lot of refurbs similar to what the company Global Engineering Technology, that I worked for in Wichita, Kansas did. And so I took this job doing work for them, and it was freaking awesome. Like, again, they were kind of the laid back, lot of cool different projects we worked on. We worked on a lot of Global Expresses, a lot of Dassault, and we worked on some Gulfstreams and stuff like that, a lot of Cessnas, just a myriad of furniture, which is a lot of fun to me because I like to work on different things, But, I guess I didn't talk about all the, like, clients' planes that I worked on, It's not really talked about much, but I mean, anyway, like I did Taylor Swift's plane, I did Tom Cruise's plane, Michael Jordan's plane, the Denver Broncos. I did their plane. I'm trying to get some. I've just worked on everyone's plane. Anyone you could think of. I did Rush Limbaugh's plane, before he died. Just like I said, just all of them, And the truth is that most people don't have their own planes. Most people have they're all like a corporation, and their plane is actually owned by the corporation. And individuals, they'll lease that, or not lease. They'll rent that plane out basically. While it's not being used by the whatever the big celebrity types are. Very few celebrities actually own their own planes, but there are a couple of them that actually do. So anyway, doesn't really matter. Point is that anyway, here in Alton, basically worked for this company. It's freaking awesome. Well, so at this point, I've learned all these skills. I have all this knowledge. I've learned, how to make furniture out of honeycomb panels, how to make furniture out of Nomex panels, how to make furniture out of wood, plywoods, hardwoods, all these different kinds of things. I've learned sheet metal work, how to bend metal, how to make, stringers and airplanes. I've just learned all this, things about rivets and different kinds of hex nuts and just all freaking kinds of information. And I haven't been able to put it into anything other than a W-2 job. I just haven't been able to figure out how to sell furniture really well. I make really cool furniture, but I'm not very efficient. I can't put it all together. I've always failed as a business owner. Like I said, had tons of knowledge, been super successful working as a W-2 employee, but the idea of having my own business it's eluded me. No matter what I did, I could not put it together. And it could have been just the wrong environment, the wrong client base, the wrong product. I don't know, but I just couldn't put it together. So I'm here in Alton, and the thing that literally changed everything for me is I met a woman who's now my wife. And this woman, I met her on Match.com of all things, and she had a furniture painting company. And what she was doing is she was taking vintage furniture, like we'll go over here. Let's go back to the Resplendent Crow real quick. She was taking vintage furniture and painting it, right? So she'd take, whatever, this old chest here, and she'd paint it with high gloss lacquer, this really shiny paint. And again, people have been painting furniture forever. Anybody can paint furniture. But what she was doing is she was painting it with this really high gloss lacquer, like 90 sheen. And it's very difficult to do this work because it takes an insane amount of prep work, and most people don't have the patience. So basically what you got to do is you got to sand the furniture, right? You got to sand it down to whatever, 240, 320, something like that. Then you got to prime it, right? And then you got to sand it again. You got to sand that primer, and then you build up your primer coats to where there's no voids, there's no imperfections, and you look at it with a little LED light. And so you have to be meticulous in your prep work. And everyone always says, oh, prep's everything. And I do so much prep. Truth is, most people don't do prep very well. They do the minimal amount of prep work. They get bored. They don't have the patience. All these kind of things. So she was doing it. Like she was doing all the work. The pay. She had it down, right? And once you prime it, you look all for all the imperfections. You don't find any more imperfections. You then paint it, right? And you put that first coat of lacquer on. Then you look again for imperfections and you fill or sand or do whatever you do to get all the imperfections out, and then you hit it again with more paint. And you continue this process until you end up with a mirror-like finish, right? That is beautiful. And so she was doing this in her garage, a little 1.5 car garage here in St. Louis. And anyway, she took the leap of quitting her W-2 job and doing this full time, and she found a couple people to help her get this thing going. And she was working in a garage, and then she got into a bigger garage, and then finally like an automotive garage. And then I met her. She got out of this automotive garage and had just moved into the building we're in now, and she was renting like, I would say, like 2,000 square feet in this building that we're in now. And she was working nights because the city had come in and shut her down because she didn't have a proper spray booth, So she's, we're having our first, dates and, getting to know each other. And she, again, working nights because her business shut down. So she's just hustling like hell to make this thing work, working at nights when she knows the inspectors aren't going to be there, because I literally like pig her, I think, red tagged her building. I forget what it was. But anyway, so she just is committed to being a business owner. She's doing whatever she has to do to make this thing work. Well, she meets me. And we start dating, and I'm basically a runner. I've been an athlete my whole life. I've been an endurance runner. I love doing obstacle course racing, ultra marathons, stuff like that. So I work on jets and run. And my wife now, my girlfriend at the time, was just a business owner, like trying to make this business work and just dealing with paint and sales and the city shutting her down and learning how to get a proper paint company going, and just she had her massive set of problems, and I was a failed business owner, couldn't quite figure out how to get a business to work. But I had all these really useful skills from aerospace and furniture making. And so we hooked up. And it wasn't too long till after we hooked up that everything kind of started to work. So she was having modifications done to vintage furniture, right? So she, like, someone might want this to be turned into a vanity, right? So what they would do is she would, take the top off and have a furniture maker, cut these drawers into U-shaped drawers so that you could fit plumbing through them, stuff like that. Maybe cut the feet off, put different kinds of feet on, stuff like that. And anyway, this guy was making furniture for her, and she was showing me what he would make. And I was just like annoyed at first. And then I started to kind of get offended when I saw what this guy was charging for what he was making. Like, this guy would literally make things out of 2x4s. Like, it drove me crazy. So my wife said to me, like, hey, you know what? Like, you can criticize this guy's work all you want. You can talk shit, whatever. But I want you to stop. Like, unless you're going to come help me, like, don't criticize this guy's work. I don't need to hear it. This is what I can do. This is the guy I got. It is what it is, So inevitably, I was like, all right, you know what? Like, I'm going to make your stuff for you. Like, I'll take care of it. Like, we'll figure this out. I'm going to go buy some tools, and let's just, we got all this space, because the building we were in, we were renting 2,000 square feet, but we had access to 20, right? So we decided to rent another 2,000, and we put in a wood shop. And unbeknownst to us, the owner of this building had a complete wood shop that he wasn't using anymore. He had all the tools. He basically bought like a suite of Grizzly brand tools and sold it to me for like $3 or $4 grand. Like, you're talking everything, like, platers, table saws, drill presses, drum sanders. It was like the best deal ever, because I think he wanted us to succeed. He saw what we were doing. And this was a guy who was a third generation business owner, owned a massive architectural window company. He saw what was going on, and he's like, I'm going to help these guys. And so we put all that, we cleaned out this part of the building, we got in some power, put in all these tools, and we started making furniture. And more like fixing furniture. I was just helping her fix things, making things every now and again. Well, I was still working for Westar Aviation at the time, right? So I'm still working 2 jobs, trying to help my girlfriend out. It was my girlfriend at the time, trying to help her. And we ended up getting a job in Park Avenue, New York, right, in Manhattan. And they wanted us to make this shoe cabinet, right? And the thing about New York is apartments are real small there. So people need custom things made because they don't have the space for things. So they'll get custom things made to put like little nooks, little crannies of their apartments and homes. And so I made the shoe cabinet, and I want to say we charged, it was like $5,000 for this thing. And it was a big price tag. We delivered it and it went fine. And then we got an order for a custom credenza. So I shouldn't say I designed, my wife and I designed this credenza right here. And this is the thing that changed everything. And this is, if you're this far into this video, you guys need to understand that there can be one thing that changes the trajectory of your life, right? But it's all the things you did before that that make that one thing possible. A lot of people think that you just got to be in the right place at the right time. And I'm here to tell you guys that that can happen. And there is something to that, but that's not what's going to get you to where you want to go. It's not going to get you where you want to go. So we get asked to make a credenza, right? And this is the 3-door 60-inch version. But truth is that I make this in 40, 60, 70, 80, 100, and 120-inch sizes. This one cabinet launched everything for us. Okay, so my wife had already been painting furniture, right? She'd been high gloss lacquering furniture, kind of figuring out the technique to get this furniture painted, right? To get the finish work to be good enough to where she could sell this stuff for whatever, $2,600, right? So she has the paint technique. Here's the 7-inch version of the same credenza, right? She has the paint technique. I have the fabrication skills and the knowledge, right? So the thing that sold it for us was this skill right here, okay? This is, let's go over here again. Bear with me while I go to, let's just go to, again, you guys get to see all the back end of how this stuff works, you know. The original model that I did for this particular client was, I don't know, it could have been, I'm guessing it was probably this one, right? This is the original model. So this cabinet is, again, I don't ever put backs on my cabinet, but you guys can see, right? It's just end panel, base panel, right? We got our mid panel here. We got our runners or nailers, whatever you guys want. I guess these are nailers technically. Again, basic cabinet, right? We got a basic base. I got a basic base cabinet here. We can just, let's go to, let's just look at the base itself, right? So here's the base cabinet, right? Very basic structure, you know, 2-inch by 2-inch, 3/4-inch material here. We got a basic foot, and then we got a brass toe cap, which I didn't even put on the original cabinet. I just drew it. I didn't actually use it. So this cabinet, I had a client that wanted me to build 2 of these, and we designed it. We showed it to them. Again, I made a video of it. We presented it to them, and they're like, yeah, we want that. So I sold 2 of these, and I think I sold each one for like $5,000 at the time. It wasn't a ton of money. But you can see that now, this is a 70-inch one I sell for $6,500, right? So the 80-inch version, I don't know if it will show me the 80-inch version. Here we go. So here's the 80-inch version. So we sell this 80-inch version for actually less because we sell so many and we're so good at making these things. We don't have to sell a ton of money. But again, it's selling for what's like 20% more. So this cabinet allowed me to quit my job. It was one of those deals where we're like, okay, we're going to make this piece of furniture. We're going to start making furniture, and you're going to quit your job and devote all of your time to doing it. So we had just enough money to allow me to quit my $80,000 a year job and start this thing. So this, like I said, the skill of my wife selling, my wife learning this high gloss lacquer technique, my furniture skills that I've been doing my entire life, my metalworking skills, and more importantly, my CAD skills, right? My CATIA skills, my SolidWorks skills, AutoCAD, all these kind of things led us to be able to quit our regular jobs and do this full time. And we've never looked back, right? It's been designing new furniture, repurposing old furniture, working on our paint technique to where now we have, like I said, a multi-million-dollar company. We've got 10 employees. We've been in business for almost 10 years at this point. I think I've been at the company for 7, maybe, I think it's 7 or 8. And now we have a lot of, I won't say freedom, but we live a comfortable enough life that we we can take days off now, which is nice. We can go on vacations if we need to. You know, like so my wife can go to India if she wants for a while. We can just do all kinds of things that we weren't able to do before. But it's all of this work that has allowed us to go do what we do now, to have this company, to be able to, like I said, pass this thing down to our kids if we want to, if they're even interested. It's just given us a lot of options, right? We're able to have nicer homes. I pulled up this old Zillow ad of the home that we bought during COVID. I don't know if I got any pictures. Where's the, you know, and I again just showing everyone what we've been able to do with our little furniture company and our skills. The original house is, you see all this natural wood, like it's a custom built home. And we bought this thing during COVID. It'd been on the market for a long time. And we bought it. And I'm showing you this not to brag, but what I want to give you guys is some, if you're into the video at this point, what you're seeing here is these old kind of 90s style cabinets. Well, one of the things we do now, you know, this is this is where I'm at right now, believe it or not. I'm actually sitting right here. But this is the basement. You know, but every room in this house has an amazing view of the Mississippi River. The house was designed to look at the Mississippi River on this big hill in the bluffs. It's a gorgeous place. And what we're doing now, from a business standpoint, is we're taking every room. Get this thing go away here. We're taking every room in our home, and we are painting it. We're making furniture for it, and now we're using it as a marketing tool for the Resplendent Crow. So the furniture that you're seeing here at the Resplendent Crow, we're putting all this in our home, and we're able to use this as essentially a tax write-off to make furniture, right? To make things for our business, to sell stuff where people like to see our business, right? They like to see our home. They like to see what we're doing. It's become a content generating kind of thing. And this is the next phase of our business, is not just necessarily designing new furniture and making furniture. We've got other people that do that now. Now we're redoing our home and using our business as a tool to do that kind of stuff, you know? So, yeah, it's interesting, guys, you know, and I want people to understand that, you know, you don't have to be super intelligent. You don't have to be, you know, have the silver spoon, have all the dots kind of aligned. Like you could see that in this video, like I had to move all over the place, but I stuck with furniture. I stuck with it. When everyone told me I was a loser and that I needed to go to college, I kept on woodwork because I didn't like school. I just kept doing what it is that I wanted to do. And it worked out because it was work, right? I didn't do what I wanted to do just to go, you know, do dumb things. Like I just kept on working and learning my skills and honing my craft and adding to my quiver of arrows. And it's led to a business that is really cool. I'm really proud of my business. And I thought this would be a cool video just to kind of show people the woodworker's journey. You know, I get to make anything I want now. I get to make all kinds of cool furniture. I've got a lot of people that help me make furniture, that help me deliver furniture. I get to work on just all kinds of really cool projects. And it's different than, I think, a lot of YouTube content today. A lot of YouTubers start off doing some kind of woodwork, and then they started making videos. And the videos became more popular than the woodworking itself, meaning it paid more money, right? You've got sponsorships. You've got, you know, deals with like some tool companies. You're doing subscription services. You're giving people plans on how to start their own business. People are doing things that make them money, but they're not making furniture. And the point of this video is to show you that you can make furniture. Furniture will lead to the money. Furniture will lead you to where you want to be in life. And you don't just have to make content. You don't have to be these YouTube content creators that make all this goofy woodworking that nobody's going to buy, guys. Like, I'm here to tell you, the stuff that you see on YouTube, no one's buying that shit. You're going to have one or two people that want that kind of stuff. And it's good for those people, don't get me wrong. But the furniture that I sell, like I sell... again, I say this, I don't know if people like this stuff, but I sell 75 of these a year, right? I sell 75 of them a year. You know, like, what is that? 75, and do the math. What's that? $350,000, right? That's one cabinet. You know, it's just, you can make furniture that, that people really want, that is really cool. Let's scroll down there. Let's see what kind of other stuff we got in here. Do some quick, so this is a vintage faux bamboo dresser, right? 9 drawer. I make a new version of this that I sell for about 8,000 bucks. I sell a couple of those a year. You know, it's really cool stuff. This is all vintage stuff in here. See some more. These Greek key attaches, I make these, right? What are these? 8,000 bucks. I probably sell, I don't know, 5 to 10 of those a year, depending on what we're doing. Look at these trays. I don't make this tray. Where's the? Yeah, there you go. Here's the tray that I make. I make these, and again, I make everything right here in St. Louis, Missouri. I make these. These sell for 600 bucks a pop. You know, it's and we sell these things. Like, it's not like this stuff doesn't sell. This isn't something that I just took a picture of and put it on a website. You know, this website cost, I don't know, probably costs 300 bucks a month just to keep the website up. You know, we have to actually sell furniture. And that's what I want people to understand, is that you could be a furniture maker. You could do the fun stuff and make good money. You can employ people. You could have buildings. You can, you know, buy nice things. This job can get you the stuff that you want. Like, you don't have to go to college. You don't have to go work for somebody else. You don't have to be the 1% of the 1% making YouTube content. You can have a real business that makes real products and has real customers. You know, this dresser, I CNC cut this dresser so that I'm able to sell it for 4,000 bucks, right? Which is cheap for my business. So these curved foam bamboo vanities, right? We've got just a slight curve on there. Sell these. These start at 3,000 bucks. We have all different kinds of sizes for them. You know, we make a lot of really cool stuff here. It's a lot of fun. It's a great business. These are newly made nightstands as part of our paychecks line. You know, a pair of those, 6,000 bucks. You know, so we're always making furniture. We're always selling furniture. We're always putting new stuff on our website. And you can do this, guys. Like, you don't have to work for somebody else your entire life if you don't want to. You can make all kinds of cool stuff. You know, last thing I'll show you guys, we make a lot of vanities. You know, so it's just an easy thing to show people. But we make most of our vanities. You know, this cool vanity, again, I made this for my house, right? I made this for my wife when I was redoing one of her bathrooms, and now we sell it to people. And actually, I haven't sold one yet, but it takes a year for a piece of furniture to really catch on. Emily vanity, real popular. We make this in all different kinds of sizes. Greek key, make that in all different kinds of sizes. Regular old curved vanities, 3-drawer vanity. We make all this stuff. Double vanities. You know, again, I sell a couple of these a year too. You know, was that almost 9,000 bucks? You know, so you guys can't do this stuff. And I hope people like this content. I think it's really important that people tell their stories of how they got to where they are. And again, some people take this kind of stuff, they'll think of it as like bragging, or they'll think of it as, you know, as self-serving in a way, but it's not. It's just to show people that there are other paths. You know, there isn't one path to be successful. There's not one path to get to where you want to be in life. And you're not going to get rich doing this, you know, but you can have a pretty good life. You know, some years, I tell everyone all the time, like, some years you're going to have so much money you don't know what to do with it all. Other years, you're going to mortgage your home. And you hope that over the span of time, you kind of end up somewhere in the middle, you know, and that's how it's been for me. That's how my business has been. And I've really enjoyed it. I love what I do. I love the people that work for me. I love seeing them, you know, have kids, buy cars, go on vacations. I love giving raises. We gave out amazing bonuses this year, which we can't do every year. So it was really nice to have a good year to be able to do those kind of things. It's a good craft. It's a good thing to learn, making furniture, you know. So, you know, if you like this kind of content, I got all kinds of videos on my channel about how I make things, about the business of furniture, the business of paint, all these kind of things. And I could talk about this stuff, as you can tell. I could talk about stuff for days. Like, I'm really passionate about it. It's my life's work, and I love it, you know. So, you know what? We'll keep making these videos, and I hope everyone has a great day. It's Monday. You know, got a busy week ahead of us. So I hope you guys like the content. Like I said, subscribe, and you'll see all kinds of fun stuff that I got coming up, because I got a lot of crazy projects coming up.